Welcome to Canopy Theatre Foundation's audio drama. You're going to listen to a story with a classic theme you're sure to recognize. The story is conceived of and told by Ronnie Stafford, technique by Oscar Ramspick. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
There was nothing to be done. Nothing. It didn't matter how the tailor multiplied, divided, or subtracted the numbers. They all added up to the same thing. His tailoring business was in dire straits, and soon he would find himself on the streets with his begging dish. All his life he had been carefully building up a good business and a good reputation. The villagers were his customers. They would come to him to have their clothes mended, altered, and even have a new fitting. And yet here he was, soon to be penniless.
How could this happen to me?
He closed his eyes and prayed and wished things to be different. And when he looked again, nothing changed. Just then the doorbell rang, and in comes a young, well-dressed, handsome fellow. The tailor could see instantly by the cut of the young man's clothes that he was wealthy.
You've come for a fitting? I have the finest cloth in the land. Or perhaps a consultation?
But the young man just looked at the tailor, then said, "I've come for you."
For me?
To help you with your business.
This puzzled the tailor a great deal.
How do you know my business is in need?
I know the man that must need me.
Must need you? My business is indeed in dire need. I have nothing to give you, nothing to bargain with.
The young man moved closer to the tailor and looked him in his eyes.
You have your soul.
My soul? To bargain with? How so?
And in a flash of inspiration that came across the tailor, he got intrigued.
What must I do?
The young man moved closer to the tailor and, whispering, handed him his business card. And before the tailor could lift his eyes up from reading, the young man was gone. But the tailor shrugged this off and threw the card onto his cutting table alongside his other unwanted tailor's implements. Then it started quite quickly. The first customer complained that one of his buttons had fallen off his sleeve. The next, his trouser seams had come apart. Then the next, and the next, until finally the cancellations. The tailor couldn't understand this. He had been the villager's tailor for years. But he soon found out a new breed of business people had arrived in the village, and with them came the automated business with machines that could mass produce a ready-made tailor outfit in record time. The people called this business off the peg, others off the rack, but it was all the same to the tailor. Months passed, and the tailor lost his needles. He misplaced his thimbles. The cloth split, and he himself was coming apart. Soon the rent collectors would come, and he would find himself living on the streets among those other gentlemen in old clothes, tramps. And for the second time the tailor read the business card. Except this time he read it carefully. It was quite simple. He was to write a letter and place it under his pillow, then go to sleep. This the tailor did. The next morning when he awoke, nothing had changed. He looked under his pillow. His letter was gone, and in its place was a small piece of silver. Now he remembered what the young man had whispered.
Should he accept this gift of silver called earnest money, then the deal is sealed.
Well, what was he to do? He was going to lose everything anyway.
There is nothing to lose,
said the tailor. So he took the piece of silver, and soon things began to change quickly. His old customers started to return, some with excuses like Nothing beats a bespoke tailor. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years, and the tailor got rich and famous. Customers came from near and far. In came the bishop, in came the gentry, in came the prince. In came a tall, handsome young man. Puzzled, the tailor looked at the young man and said,
"Do I know you?"
I've come to collect
"Collect?"
your soul.
This shook the tailor, for it was only 15 years ago that he had made the bargain.
"I have customers, responsibilities, business to take care of. I have—"
Quiet. You took the earnest money.
"What money? That miserable piece of silver? That was nothing. I still had to scrimp and scrape and work hard."
But you had the piece of silver to bargain with. It was your collateral, and so you did profit from it. And I will have my soul.
Well, with this, the tailor got very frightened, and he began to plead with the young man, begging him for an extension, begging him not to be taken. Just begging. But the young man got impatient and grabbed the tailor by his hair and lifted him up. And for the first time, the tailor realized he was dealing with the devil himself.
"Oh, your majesty, have pity on me. It is true that I asked you for your help, but you took advantage of me, a poor beggar."
Ah, it is true. I did take advantage of you.
And the tailor could see that the devil was in a ponderous mood and seized the moment.
"Oh, your majesty, grant this poor soul one last wish."
Grant it, but be quick. Your time is nigh.
Well, the tailor was in a panic. He didn't know what to wish for. What could he wish for? After all, he was dealing with the devil. And in a blind panic, the tailor spluttered out,
"I wish you to jump on the back of old Ned's horse and ride to the outskirts of this village and never visit me again."
With that, the devil was gone. But the story got out, and all the villagers were talking about how the tailor had outwitted the devil. And the story got bigger, of how the tailor, locked in mortal combat, fought the devil and threw him off the side of a cliff into the wild sea below. The village became famous. The tourists came in droves, welcomed by a huge painting at the village boundary showing the battle scene of the tailor casting the devil from the cliff into the wild, stormy sea below. Years passed, and the tailor got very rich and powerful. And yet sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, and he would run to the village boundary, and there he would see waiting a tall, handsome young man. But the tailor knew he was safe.
I'm perfectly safe."
Then came the day the tailor died. But in his will he stipulated that his body be buried in the basement of his mansion, which was built upon the old tailor shop. And this was done. Tens of years passed, and the village was no longer a village. It became a town, and then a city, and into that city came a new breed of people called property developers. And when they found some old bones hidden deep in the cellar of a rundown mansion, they had them removed and buried outside the city limits. And that night, a wondrous thing happened. Those bones began to move and attach themselves. They all uprose to form a skeleton, and now there grew flesh upon those bones, and soon that flesh was covered in fine clothing, and there he stood, the tailor. And turning with his arms outstretched, and taking in deep breaths of glorious fresh air, he looked about. All the old familiar sights, sounds, and smells were replaced with new sights, sounds, and smells.
"I'm alive! I'm alive! I'm alive!
And as he turned, he was seized about the neck by the devil himself.
Safe? Perfectly safe?
You've listened to the Faustian story, The Tailor and the Devil, read by Ronnie Stafford. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. If you are interested in recording one yourself, please contact us. And thank you for listening to Canopy Theatre Foundation's audio drama.